Today, we're discussing the crisis in Canada, where 15% of immigrants are leaving. Would you prefer to be born in your country again if you had another chance? Or would you rather be born in a better country? Is there anyone among you who wishes to immigrate not in another life, but right now? According to a survey conducted by the market research firm Trend Monitor on 1,000 adult men and women, as of 2018, 7 out of 10 people have considered immigration. Now, that number might have increased to 8 out of 10. Most people want to immigrate due to the hope for a more comfortable life and the desire to escape the competitive social structure. Just as the saying goes, paradise does not exist for those who run away. Paradise may not exist, but many immigrants are living better lives. Then, which countries do most people wish to immigrate to? Canada is always within the top 3 countries that immigrants worldwide wish to move to. According to a survey conducted in 2021 by the American polling firm Gallup, which surveyed approximately 127,000 adults across 122 countries, Canada was the second most desired country for immigration. The first place was the United States. Interestingly, the survey found that American respondents who wished to immigrate preferred Canada the most. The reason Canada is popular as a desired immigration destination is because it is an English-speaking country located in North America, but it is considered to have a much safer environment than the U.S. and offers high-quality public services, free healthcare, free education, and the opportunity to enjoy a clean and beautiful natural environment. Above all, Canada's government is very open to immigrants through various immigration programs, which is why it is highly preferred. However, it seems the Canadian dream is now a thing of the past. Recently, many immigrants have been leaving Canada to return to their home countries or to re-immigrate to other countries. There's even talk of a crisis in Canada. According to data compiled by Statistics Canada from 1982 to 2017, when looking at the overall re-immigration rate, 15% of all immigrants to Canada have already left the country. Moreover, a 2022 survey by the Canadian Citizenship Institute revealed that a significant number of young immigrants are not satisfied with their experience in Canada. Among respondents aged 18 to 34, 30% said there is a possibility that they will move to another country within 2 years. Why is the re-immigration rate so high in Canada, a country once called the best place to live in the world, the best country for foreigners to settle in, and the optimal country for immigration? Today's video is especially important, so I would appreciate it if you watch it until the end. The reasons immigrants are leaving Canada involve a mix of personal, economic, and social factors, but the primary reason is the high cost of living. In recent years, the keywords representing residents of Canada have been financial crisis and economic difficulties. According to a report by Reuters on December 9, 2023, the main reason people leaving or preparing to leave Canada cited was the exorbitant cost of living, including apartment rents. Many immigrants chose to move to Canada for better financial prospects and career opportunities, hoping to quickly achieve homeownership and financial independence upon arriving. However, the reality has been different. In Canada, on average, about 60% of household income goes towards housing costs. According to a report published by the Royal Bank of Canada in September 2023, this proportion has increased to 80% in Toronto and up to 98% in Vancouver. This means that in Canada, especially in major cities like Toronto and Vancouver, nearly all of one's income must be spent on housing costs due to skyrocketing home prices. The sky-high housing prices in Canada can be attributed to 2 main factors. One is the speculation boom in Canadian real estate by Chinese investors. The already high prices of homes in Canada's major cities surged, even more fiercely with the onset of speculation by Chinese investors. Additionally, there was a problem with supply. Immigrants are unlikely to move to rural areas. Most look for jobs and settle in major cities. As immigrants continued to flock in, the supply of homes did not meet the demand. In fact, the biggest issue is that the Canadian government has been keen on accepting immigrants without necessarily putting in place measures to address these challenges. They should have either curbed speculation or increased supply significantly, but they let both issues persist. Not only housing costs, but also the cost of food is a problem. Eating out in Canada is famously expensive, and with the tipping culture, you have to pay about 15% tip on top of the already expensive food prices. While eating out less is one solution and assuming housing can be somehow managed, other living costs are also high. Food is expensive and everything else is costly as well. You might think that high prices are justified by high wages, but as mentioned earlier, with housing costs being so high, There's not much money left over, making the cost of living seem expensive even when considering the average wage. A prime example is telecommunications, specifically mobile phone charges. This has been a long-standing issue with Canada consistently, ranking among the top countries for the highest telecommunications costs in the world. The reason these high prices can be maintained is because essential services such as banking, groceries, and telecommunications are largely monopolized by a few companies. In the case of groceries, the market is essentially dominated by a few global companies with little to no competition. These companies seem to have an unspoken agreement to gradually increase prices. With global inflation hitting, prices have risen even further. Another reason immigrants want to leave Canada is due to the difficulties they face in the job market. We often hear that Canada is a place with many jobs but not enough people. However, many of these jobs are not high-quality positions but rather involve unskilled, simple labor, or are physically demanding. With the global rise in education levels, the average educational attainment has increased. And this is true for immigrants to Canada as well. Approximately 6 out of 10, more than half of the immigrants hold at least a bachelor's degree. Immigrants wish to find jobs in Canada that utilize their skills, career, or experience. But Canadian companies prefer candidates with local Canadian experience. Foreign experience and qualifications are often undervalued, leading many with relevant experience to end up working in entirely different fields. For example, one man with years of IT management experience in the UK and the Netherlands found it difficult to get hired, because the companies he applied to were looking for candidates with local Canadian experience. Consequently, he had to settle for a minimum wage job initially. Even for those working in their field, the salary often isn't enough, even if the salary is similar to or more than what they earned in their home country. The high cost of living and housing prices in Canada can make it feel like they're earning less. Woke culture also poses a challenge. Woke, in simple terms, is akin to the concept of political correctness, emphasizing that discrimination based on sexual orientation, race, origin, or gender is unacceptable. While the influx of immigrants and the strengthened stance against discrimination might seem beneficial, especially for immigrants who could face racial discrimination, this culture itself has become problematic. The intervention in young children's education, especially in schools, is seen by some as excessively intrusive, almost to the point of indoctrination. Frankly, most parents would likely be startled if their child identified as LGBTQ+. The concern that a child could change due to the influence of education despite not inherently being that way is a genuine concern for parents. This becomes an unavoidable thought when having children as immigrants. Indeed, a resident in Canada identified as L reported that Canadian elementary schools are teaching young students during sex education that you might be male or female, but you could be of the opposite sex, and it's too early to make a definite decision. Recently, there have been events where adult entertainers such as drag queens and kings read books to children in libraries. This has sparked controversy in Canada as well. It might be different if successful LGBTQ+ individuals were sharing their life stories. I have never observed normal parents making a decision to expose their children to individuals who work in bars. The question arises, does this education genuinely assist children who have not yet established their sexual identity? Eliminating discrimination is essential, but when it crosses into children's education, it seems excessive or even too radical, as some have suggested online. Crucially, as the economy worsens and the number of poor immigrants increases, those who have become impoverished after arriving, the prevalence of crime has surged. The streets are increasingly filled with homeless individuals, the majority of whom are struggling with substance abuse. Incidents of car theft, gun crime, and even the murder rate have spiked, reaching a 16-year high in 2022 and continuing to rise in 2023. Of course, it is still safer than the United States, for now. However, if crime continues to rise, there seems little reason to choose Canada over the United States, where there are more opportunities. So, what does the Canadian government think about the outflow of immigrants? Despite discussions on immigrant outflow in Canada, the influx still significantly outweighs the outflow. The real issue in Canada isn't the outflow. It's the problems that arise with the influx of immigrants, such as housing prices and conflicts, woke culture, absurd living costs, and employment issues. The Canadian government has accepted a large number of immigrants without a solid plan to manage the consequences, to counteract the effects of low birth rates and an aging population on the workforce. Canada has consistently implemented policies to accept more immigrants. Between 2022 and 2023, Canada welcomed close to 1 million immigrants and emphasized the continuous expansion of immigration until the end of 2023. As of 2021, immigrants constituted 25% of Canada's population. However, the Canadian government suddenly decided to freeze the target number of immigrants until 2026 and, by the end of March 2024, imposed a 2-month complete ban on study permits. Additionally, they decided to reduce the issuance of international student visas by 35% over the next 2 years compared to 2023. Indeed, the Canadian Department of Immigration has strengthened various eligibility requirements for study permits. This is because the Canadian public has grown skeptical of the immigration expansion policy. Currently, many Canadians believe that the pace of immigration is too fast and that the government's policies are not adequately supporting the increasing number of immigrants. According to a survey by the Policy Research Institute for Environmental Management, 44% of respondents believe that too many immigrants are coming in, a significant increase from 27% in 2023. This change in perception is interpreted as a result of recent issues, such as the housing crisis and high cost of living, with international students and foreign workers being pointed out as causes. The challenges in the healthcare and education systems have also contributed to Canadians' negative views on immigration policies. In summary, rapid population growth is causing a decline in both the quantity and quality of housing, job opportunities, healthcare, and education systems. In other words, the government's aggressive immigration policy has led to a deterioration in the quality of life for both immigrants and Canadians alike. Choosing the crisis in Canada as today's topic was driven by the reasons I've mentioned before. The necessity to fill labor shortages, in demanding and simple labor jobs through immigration, and the significant issue of low birth rates. In 2022, Canada's birth rate hit a record low of 133. While this might seem acceptable compared to South Korea's extremely low rate of 0.81, Canada is also in a precarious situation. The issue of declining birth rates is a problem faced by developed countries worldwide. The United States, with a birth rate around 266, doesn't worry about this issue as much thanks to a steady influx of immigrants. Similarly, Canada has significantly increased its immigration to combat low birth rates and job vacancies. Most immigrants are in their 10s to 30s, contributing to the working-age population. If countries with the lowest birth rates, like South Korea, cannot find an innovative solution to this problem, their only real option is to follow the path of the United States or Canada and increase immigration. However, a policy of indiscriminate mass immigration can lead to social turmoil. Despite policies in education aimed at integrating multicultural families, racial discrimination still exists. Moreover, anticipated social issues are not limited to one or two. Cultural conflicts and issues around voting rights continue to emerge around the world. In Europe, poor immigrants often form slums, leading to deteriorating public safety and even the formation of gangs. If immigrants from a specific country commit crimes or are involved in murder cases repeatedly, it can quickly lead to discrimination and conflict. Subsequently, regardless of the truth, various rumors start circulating, and one can imagine protests with signs saying, "Go back to your country," outside Parliament or similar institutions. What I've described is probably just the tip of the iceberg. The reality could be more severe. If you have any better ideas or opinions on these issues, please let me know.